and it didn't.
Well, hello and welcome to Rhythm Sunday Sweats NFL Edition Week 10. I know we're a little bit late here. I'm pounding coffee. That doesn't look like James Santor. It looks like Adam Rosenberg. He's got a high noon.
I got a high noon. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at you drinking early on a Sunday.
Well, you know,
what's the thought process behind there?
I got two kids, and they're both under 3. So if I'm getting an hour to myself to get to do some of this, I'm gonna enjoy myself a little bit. So this is nice. Look at us. You and I both like cropped our beards. Like we're all cleaned up though for Sunday.
Had to look good. Had to impress the Rhythm team. Had to make James Santor feel confident that we're missing him today, but he's in good hands with you and I running the show. And congrats to our guy, or thank you to our guy Alec too for producing this show and getting us ready. But we'll let people fill in here, Adam. And maybe I just wanted to mention one thing. Like you and I kind of go way back in the sports betting community. Like we've both been in the industry for quite a while. We've had two ships passing in the night at different companies. And now we get to have our first real live stream co-hosting together. So it's great to see you in the flesh, my man, and talk some sharp bets with you today.
Yeah, it's cool because for folks that don't know, Josh actually lives down the street from me. Like we are literally a town over. He's one of the first people I followed when I was getting into sports betting. And funny enough, not even getting this for this bit, I have your book right here. It's that little green one on my back shelf. Yeah, I had it. It's been part of all of my shows. It's been part of all my stuff. So this has been a long time coming. This is like Macho Man and Hulk Hogan with the handshake. This is Mega Powers finally coming together.
No, this is fantastic, man. I'm excited to break down games with you because a really good slate today, Adam. We got a lot of great games. We got obviously an international series game going on right now. A lot of system matches here. I think you and I might overlap on a few. We might disagree on a few, and that's totally cool. I think, when I'm looking at a lot of these like sports betting live streams and shows, it's like, oh, I love this. Oh, I love this too. And it's always people agreeing. I like it when you disagree a little bit because number one, it provides, I think, a little more entertainment for the viewer or the listener, but also not just entertainment, but kind of presenting both sides. And then you kind of can offer the viewer or the listener kind of their decision-making process. Like I'll present, team A, you'll present team B. We cover both sides of it. Then the viewer listener gets to decide what they want to do. So should be a lot of great games here today, Adam. I just wanted to mention before we dive in all the games, because we're a little bit late today getting in here, but I like to, on Sundays with James, kind of overlap a little bit or kind of recap what we looked at on a big Sunday in college football. So I know you have some thoughts on the Ole Miss game, which I'll throw to you here in a second. But I just want to highlight kind of 2 games yesterday that fit my model and kind of really personify how I use Rhythm. So I think with Rhythm, you have all this great data to your advantage, but I like to start off with kind of my theory of sports betting, which is following the market, looking at sharp line movement, system matches, bet splits. And then what I like to do is start with that, then pop open my Rhythm app, and then look at where the system matches are and where the value can be. I use Rhythm as kind of a cherry on top, or kind of that last factor to say, oh, I really like this. Does Rhythm agree with me, or does Rhythm disagree with me? So real quick, Adam, just 2 games that I noticed yesterday. Boston College, near and dear to our heart, even though
I went to Syracuse. So, I mean, this is a
well, I don't want to rub it in here. I went to UVM, so I got no dog in the fight here. And,
yeah.
BC, college football doesn't really mean anything in New England. But I like BC from a market-based perspective. They opened -1.5. They got steamed all the way up to -3. The tickets were down the middle, yet you had 65% of dollars at DraftKings on BC. And then when they were hovering around like -1.5, -2, I moneylined them. I popped open Rhythm. Rhythm said BC should be -3.1. So boom, the market was moving toward BC. You had a 50-50 bet split and lower bets, higher dollars. And Rhythm was telling me, hey, we got an edge there. So got the BC play, and then Utah late night. You got kids, Adam. I don't know if you stayed up late for the Utah BYU
I did stay
game.
Up. Well, I stayed. Rhythm was very helpful on that play. It was awesome, especially because of. I'll let you get into yours, but I had some fun with that game because of Rhythm.
Nice. Well, I want to hear what you had, but I'll just mention real quick. I liked Utah all week. Really my go-to play in college football, and you saw it yesterday with a bunch of different games, Ole Miss, Kansas, BYU against Utah. when you are a very unpopular home dog
Yep.
and the line's moving in your direction. Like you open getting 5, you fall to 4. You're only getting 20% bets. So, for example, like that Utah game, BYU came in very, very popular, getting like 85% of bets. But you had BYU open -4.5. The line got all the way down to 3.5 or 3. So that line was moving toward Utah, even though big majority of bets are on BYU. Boom, pop open Rhythm. Rhythm said Utah should only be plus 1.9. Almost nailed it exactly as they lose by 1. You know, I feel bad for anyone who money lined Utah, but if you took the points there, great cover, and that's kind of how, you know, I use Rhythm to my advantage. But I'll toss it over to you, Adam. Thoughts from yesterday? How did you clean up on that BYU game as well?
So I had Utah plus 3-2. I mean, you know, normally when you have any team that's going in to play Utah, that's a serious home field advantage. Obviously with BYU, it's a little bit nullified because they're both based in the same state. But Utah brings it either way when they were at home. So prior to even looking in Rhythm, when you know something I learned from you, man, I'm looking at an unpopular team as a short home dog.
Yep.
Come on. And so I had it right away and I went in and Rhythm's like, yeah, this is a 1-point game. And knowing this Utah team, knowing how they operate, it was a 1-point game. So we did cash on that. You know, if someone had asked me yesterday though, Utah money line, I would have also probably given out because to keep in mind everybody, and you probably see this a lot in the app, like, oh, it's telling me to take the money line, but it's projected to lose. This is a great example of where the money line does have a lot of value because you have a 1-point margin games don't happen all the time. Yeah. It's actually a lot more common that what that 1 point is saying, especially with a 3-point cover, is that it was a coin flip. So if they play this game 10 times, probably a majority of that time that's might actually go into the money line, which was, I think, closed at plus 190, which is a great price. You're break even on that. You only have to win it 3 times and you've broken even for all of it. So really good thing to look at. Obviously the Syracuse BYU thing, Syracuse, my school. I don't know what's happened to us the last couple of weeks. I mean, the last couple of years. The big one that I noticed, look every now and then I use Rhythm for college football. I have a base knowledge, but since I do so many sports, Rhythm, it covers a lot of my blind spots. I also use Rhythm a lot for FCS schools because it's fantastic. It's a very soft market. One of the big things is when you're looking at games you want to bet, games that have low tickets means that the signals are going to be a lot brighter, and Rhythm picks that up very, very well. So when you're looking at, you know, betting Penn football and things like that, some of these Ivy leagues, it's great. But the big thing for me was I will occasionally fade Rhythm because I think that I know it better than I know myself. And Lane Kiffin has never won a big game all week. The top of my recommendations was, yeah, you should look at this Ole Miss. You should look at this Ole Miss. And I'm like, you know what? Georgia's been great. Georgia's always great. Georgia finds a way. Lane Kiffin has one big win against Alabama, nothing else. And then what happened last night from start to finish, wire to wire, Ole Miss controlled that entire game and won that game outright. It really shut me up. I was not on it, but it was at the top of my list for the entire week. And it's just one of those things where those are sometimes signals. I'm not saying you don't use Rhythm as a pick service, but as the friend that's like, look, I understand you have some previous biases against stuff. Sometimes it's worth listening to.
Yeah, and I think another to your point, Adam, is like, you know, Rhythm isn't like a friend making recommendations based on gut instinct or bias. Like that's what I like about Rhythm is that, you know, you and I know James, we know Megan, we know Brian, you know, the brains behind Rhythm. But really what I love about them is that this is just purely data. It's a database play. All these suggestions, are they all going to win? Of course not. I think that sometimes that's frustrating too, is like, you know, people are like, oh, Rhythm predicted this and it lost. It's like, well, sports betting is really difficult. It's hard to beat these lines. Volatility and randomness happen. But if you look at the majority overall, you know, Rhythm is cashing out upward, say, you know, 55, 56%, which
and a lot of those are plus money plays. So
exactly.
The ROI is insane.
And if you're getting that plus money, I mean, boom, you're making even more. So I love kind of the way that you laid it out here is that, you know, Rhythm will give you these predictions. It's up to you as the better what you want to play.
Yep.
I'd also mention too, and I know we're letting people get into the chat and we'll get going here in a second, so many games, but you mentioned kind of these smaller schools. I would also mention, just remember, you know, scan the QR code here, download Rhythm if you haven't done it yet, because college basketball is back. And I love studying college hoops.
I love it.
I know you do too, Adam. And I won't mention University of Vermont, Syracuse, 2000.
Dude, that was that Catamounts game still lives in my heart from the NCAA tournament because it was right after we won. I remember exactly where I was for that game.
Where were you when TJ Sorrentine hit the 3 from the parking lot?
I
That's
was
what I
in a
wanna know,
bar in
Adam.
Georgetown, and a bunch of Georgetown fans were making fun of me, and I'm like, I want to go home now. And so, but I remember it very well. Love that team. So
Great team, great game. But I would just mention real quick, like you were talking about like these smaller schools, which I think there's a ton of value there. Like if you look at college football, if you get like a Super Tuesday like Duke UNC, like we all know everyone's going to play that. It's an ESPN game. It's extremely heavily bet. Those tiny little schools, I think there's a great edge there because prior to Rhythm, I would use Ken Palm projections. Ken Pomeroy, who does a great job, and
a lot of books do that too when they're kind of putting out the original lines.
Exactly. So that would be kind of my like pre-Rhythm. It was Ken Palm. I still look at Ken Palm, but now I'm applying some Rhythm edges as well. And I'll just give you one more example of this past week, just so you guys know watching. It's this is an NFL show, but Rhythm gives you access to player props and predictions for all the major sports. So with college basketball back, there was a game. I don't know if it was Friday. I think it was Friday night, but it was Boston University against San Diego.
Teams that are. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah,
you can't actually bet in the state, but yes, it was
exactly. Well, we had to find out.
Yeah, we have ways. There's ways. Yeah, exactly. There's ways we got it done. But Sandy, this is a great example because I found a way as well.
And again, to your point, like these smaller games, like that was a game that was an added game extra game. So the 6-digit Vegas ID number, those games are hard to find. Public doesn't want to play them. They're not sexy at all, but we can bet on them. And wise guys like to bet on them too. It doesn't matter if it's a popular game or a low bet game; they'll cash the exact same. But BU was going cross country. San Diego was coming off kind of a bad loss where I played them the previous time. They had multiple chances at the buzzer and they lost. But it was like a pick'em game. It got up to, I want to say, like -1 up to -3. Rhythm was predicting San Diego by like 3 or 4. Boom. Line movement, Rhythm prediction, San Diego ends up rolling in that game. So will every game, match perfectly like that? No. But this is just another like PSA of like, hey, Rhythm has all these tiny little small matchups that no one's talking about, that it's very difficult to get data on. Boom. Rhythm will give you a prediction on San Diego versus Boston University. So that's really the power of Rhythm and why I love it amongst many reasons.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I know we'll get right into NFL, but to let everyone know, like all the DraftKings or Blue Book or whatever you guys are using, they have all these schools. They have all those, us, we're talking about like Massachusetts. It's a weird thing. So you find a way to get around it, but you can bet San Diego. You can bet Houston Baptist. You can get to know the Idaho Vandals. Get to know the Idaho State Bengals. All these teams that are going to playing, because the big thing is, first of all, you can find a lot of their information. It's all online, and then you want to back it up and you look at Rhythm, and you'll start to notice a lot of things. Again, when you have less tickets on a game and there's a sharp wise guy signal, it's usually information based on some of this stuff, and it's again, with so many college games, it's very hard for books to be able to keep track of what's going on. And the signal's brighter. It's a lot more confident, in my opinion, on some of these low-level schools.
Totally agree with you, Adam.
Yeah.
Want to mention too, we got the comments going with the comment section. If people are watching, listening, you have any questions, it can be about NFL games today. It can be about Rhythm in general. Please feel free to throw in some comments. Want to say hi to Adam MMA, our guy, a little bit late. That's right. We were pounding some high noons, so sorry we were late. Addy, what's going on? How you guys doing? But let's get into it, Adam.
Yeah.
I think we're filing in. They're ready to go. It's another big NFL Sunday. I want to start off with a game that, oh boy, is it lopsided. And I'm gonna take the disgusting play that looks like it's got no chance at covering. But Lions and Texans, Sunday Night Football, big matchup here tonight. Texans obviously C.J. Stroud and having another good year. Lions kind of, they're right up there with the Chiefs as a Super Bowl favorite. They look unstoppable. I'll give you my breakdown here, and then I want to hear your thoughts, Adam. But let's look at this matchup and what we're looking at right now. Currently, Lions -3.5, over/under of 48.5. Now, what I've noticed about this game, Adam, is the line did go to Detroit. You had some books open Detroit around a 3-point favorite. They've now gotten up to 3.5, and they are extremely popular. If you look at DraftKings right now, the Detroit Lions are getting 85% of spread bets. That is just extremely lopsided. So as a contrarian bettor, my initial thought is, boom, as great as Detroit is, I got to go the other way and take Houston. But what I kind of like about this one, Adam, not just a contrarian play, but only 15% of bets on Houston. It looked like, and there was one book earlier this week, I think it was ESPN Bet, that got to 4. So there was a small, like, little moment in time where you could grab the 4. I woke up today saying, ooh, are we going to be up to 4 painted across the board? Is every book going to be moving to 4, which would kind of be a good sign for Detroit? No, it's actually gone. All the 4s are gone. You're down to 3.5. The juice is evening out a little bit. I'm starting to see this line come back a little bit toward Houston. So Houston, to me, has a little bit of resistance. The line's coming back. They're extremely unpopular, so I can bet against the public. And you also look at primetime dogs. They haven't been great this year, but they're pretty good historically, 54%. And then when I pop open Rhythm, here's what I find. I had one Rhythm system match where this basically should be like a 1-point game, a pick'em type game. So here we go. Lions kind of resisting, coming back toward Houston. They're incredibly unpopular. No one wants to play them. You walk into any bar tonight, Adam, everyone's going to be sweating Detroit. Detroit's going to kill them, and maybe they will. They've been so good this year. But I got to take the points here. I grabbed the +4 earlier this week. I would take a 3.5. What's your thoughts on this game? Am I wrong? Is this going to be another Detroit blowout, Adam?
So here's the thing with Detroit is that I agree. You saw something that was we had something in our notes that we went back and forth on. That one of the things in Rhythm you could look at is is essentially win quality. It's win rank, and Texans are always up there, which is impressive because they're not in what I would say is a strong division. They're in the AFC South is probably should be relegated along with the NFC South, but the thing that you're seeing with Detroit is that they're super focused. It's not stuff you're ever going to see in the numbers. Like, this is a very well-coached team. This is a team of guys that essentially ran back everybody from last year, which is very, very rare. And the only problem that they've had is Aiden Hutchinson getting hurt, which makes them susceptible for the run game. That being said, this Texans team is very high ranking on Rhythm within win quality. They've gone toe to toe with other teams. They look really, they haven't even looked dominant. They've just been very, very good, and they've won the games that they've needed to win. They're also getting Nico Collins back probably. So, which is probably what's holding this line from going to 4 is that, he practiced all week. He was on the IR up until when he got hurt. He was at probably most places 2 or 3 to be offensive player of the year. He changes the entire pace of that game. So this is this is something where I think taking a home dog that's arguably at full strength with a running back who's playing outstanding, Joe Mixon, who Detroit has been very susceptible up the middle. I think it's a great play from a tactical standpoint, just of liking the games and liking the ball. But Detroit's always this wild card because Detroit, I didn't think that they would cover against. I loved Green Bay last week, and they just went in and they just walloped them. It's a very focused team, but again, this Texans team, very different when Nico Collins changes their entire pace, changes their entire offense. Look, I back the model here on this one. I agree with it. I think that Texans getting even the hook at home in a game with two teams that are probably closer to equal than Lions are way better than Houston. I think that's a lot more accurate.
I'm with you, Adam. And I think also a couple other supplementary factors I look at when I break down a game, you have a rest advantage for the Texans. Remember, they played the Jets, on, what was that, Thursday night? So they have that's solid. Days. I'll always take a team that's a little bit more rested, rehab injuries, more time to game plan. Also, they're coming off that loss to the Jets where, again, if you have, Lions off a big win, Texans off a bad loss, that's, to me, that buy low, sell high that you're always looking for. And then also, it's been a weird year, Adam. I'm not having the best NFL season because, as a contrarian, the public is crushing it. I read a story.
It was part of the earnings for a couple of places.
Exactly. It was Ben Fox, or I don't know who tweeted it out, but basically DraftKings and all these books had their worst month almost ever. And that was that stretch where all these favorites are covering. Favorites on the year, I actually have the updated number, and it's kind of crazy because dogs have been 53%, very consistently over a long period of time. This year, they're 46%. So my answer here, my question is, are we hopefully going to see some regression to these unpopular plays? A lot of times 85%, that 15% side is going to cover at a decent rate. We've seen a lot of these 85%ers roll and make the public very happy. So that's just me kind of, hoping that we're going to see regression. And remember, when the books have a really bad month, typically they're going to get it back. We're going to get that regression that we want. So hopefully we start by a gross dog here winning this one or a couple. I want to ask you one thing too, because I learned something about Rhythm all the time. You said, what was it? Quality of win. How do you?
Yeah. So win rank. The win rank is essential. So there's two things. If you go to the bottom right corner on research, and I learned this only a couple weeks ago, but I love it. I'm high on the Texans, just so everyone knows overall. I'm gross. I like the Texans. I like the and I like the Steelers in the AFC.
With you.
Those are my teams. Those are my teams in the AFC. But if you go down, you see odds rank. Odds rank is basically saying, here's what the odds market is valuing these teams. Win rank is what the actual analytics are saying the win is worth. And a lot of times you're going to see teams that are lower on the odds rank or longer odds, but they're going to be higher on the win rank. And that's basically teams that you should be looking at buying for the future, because it means that they're basically arguably playing tougher games. And the market hasn't really caught up to this team being good. The Texans are right up there. Texans are up in the top 5 of all this. Packers are actually part of that too. But that's something that I noticed that I use in Rhythm, and it's another way to go in before you're making your decision on what you want to do with the game of like, hey, is this team actually better, or is this team perceived as better?
No, good point. Again, because there's all these great stats and additions here to the Rhythm app that I know the team has been working hard on. So it's always good to know that it's there to help you out. Did you have any prop bets here on this one, Adam? The one thing, I didn't have any props really, but I noticed one thing. Jared Goff over passing yards, over 230.5. Rhythm's predicting 268. That's a big gap, and you're buying pretty low. Last couple games, they've been so good, he hasn't had to throw the ball, but he had 145 yards last week, 85 the week before. It just seems like a high number, but maybe that's a buy low opportunity on Goff. But I'm just sticking with the points here. And Al Green, I'm with you. Let's go Texans. But any props here that caught your eye, Adam?
So I will say though that 2 of the last 3 games where Jared Goff has played inside, he's sailed over this. So keep that in mind, and you're going to be in a dome. You had 280 against Minnesota, you had 315 against Dallas. Obviously, I think they purposely were kind of showing off in that Titans game where they were at home and they only had to throw 85. But yeah, so I'm looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown. With Nico playing, I think that this is actually going to be a little bit more of a pace-up game. The Texans are actually bottom 10 in yards per reception. They're bottom 4 in yak. They lead the league actually in the most 20-plus yard passing attempts against. So they're giving up those deep threats. It's all interesting with the team. They don't have a bad defense, but by design, they give up a lot of yards. So I like Amon-Ra St. Brown in this one. He can be moved all over the field. He actually really does show up a lot of times on prime time, especially if you guys like quarter one bets. He's been an animal in those. Rhythm also likes this as well. The last projection I'd seen had Rhythm had him projected around 74. His line is sitting around 63. I love it up to 70. One of the things that you can use when you're seeing Rhythm, when you like something, Rhythm is telling you they also like it. I like to generally go in and I will take the plus money version of it. So I took Amon-Ra at 70 yards for a plus 104, something like that, which you end up getting a couple extra bucks. If it cashes, you're kind of within your projection range. And generally when you look at how somebody has done, kind of look at what their floor is of the over. So by that, I mean, if his number is 63 and every time he goes over it, he has at least 72, his floor is actually 72, not 63.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's almost like, instead of taking the points to go money line on a dog. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Yep. And when we get to NBA and it comes into, when dogs cover, because when dogs cover in NBA playoffs, they win outright. So it's a without a doubt. So
nice. Well, let's keep on moving. We got a lot of games here, Adam. I want to talk Jets Cardinals. This one caught my eye for a couple reasons. Jets, I feel like I bet on them a lot this year. They didn't ever cover for me. And then finally, again, that Texans game, they were able to cover the number. And really what we've seen here is a pretty sharp move to the Jets. I'm going to money line the Jets here, Adam. This game opened some shops like a pick'em. I even saw a couple of shops that were Arizona, like -1, -1.5. And we've seen this line now flip to the Jets. Jets are now up to -1.5 or -2. So I always love it when you flip dog to favorite, basically because if the sportsbooks are changing their prediction on who's going to win the game, you would think theoretically it took a lot of respected money to move that number. And Alec, if you can throw that board up again, I just wanted to highlight one thing too that I always look for. Look at the overall ATS record, or basically on their last 5. Jets are not covering, they're 1-4. Cardinals are covering, they're 4-1. So I think a lot of new bettors, and this was me when I first started betting, Adam, like I would say, oh, give me Arizona all day because they're proving they're covering and making people money. Jets have been losing and not making people money. But I think if you think of it the other way, you kind of want to flip it. Like I actually see that and I say, ooh, I like the Jets more because basically you're kind of overvaluing Arizona. They've covered a lot versus, selling high versus looking at the Jets buying low 1-4. Also, you look at regression, have the Cardinals maybe overperformed, Jets have underperformed. Also like the fact that the Jets have a losing record, Adam. Arizona's got a winning record, yet the line's going to the team with the losing record.
They're a pretty short fave on the road for a team that's what, 2-6?
Yeah, and again, home field isn't what it used to be. Prior to COVID, it was like 3 points. Now some people say it's like 1.5 or 2. So think of on a neutral site, maybe Jets should be -4, something like that. Jets have a rest advantage. I mentioned that in the previous cap, but playing Thursday night. And then also road favorites have some stats on this one, Adam. Road favorites straight up are 36-13, 73%, 15% ROI. So this reminds me last week, if you remember, I think it was the Rams game against Seattle where the Rams were dog to fave on the road. I just like this spot in general. So I'm money lining the Jets. It's a 50-50 bet split. Public doesn't know what to do, yet the line's going to New York. And oh, by the way, Rhythm has Jets -3.1 with one of their predictions here. So I'm going Jets money line. What are you doing on this one, Adam?
So I'm staying off of this one, which, by the way, is one of the great things that you get with Rhythm is that because I have two models that agree with you and then one that is just inconclusive. I'm staying off of it. I actually like Cardinals long-term overall. They're kind of rolling right now. And they have a really good passing, deep pass defense, but they have a really bad rushing defense. They actually have holes all over the place. So the bet, honestly, to make here, look, if you like the Cardinals, the bet to actually make is Jonathan Gannon Coach of the Year, because if Cardinals win, it will be a 4-game winning streak for them. They will be one game or not tied for the divisional lead. And Gannon's going to start to get Coach of the Year stuff. He's, I think, 16-1 or something right now. I took him at 20-1 a couple weeks ago. I agree with you, though, on this Jets team. This Jets team is the thing about this Jets team is that after all the hate on this Jets team of them acquiring guys, people getting injured and Saleh getting fired, they kind of look like they're ready to go on a little bit of a run right now. The pieces all really clicked. We just talked about how high I am on the Texans, and they looked way better than they did against the Tech. They looked way better than the Texans in prime time. So yeah, look, if push for a play, I think that the Jets are the right side here. But if you like the Cardinals, rather than take them with the points or take them whatever it is, take Jonathan Gannon for Coach of the Year, because this will end up being a prime win when they're saying that, hey, they went on a 4-game winning streak, if not more. He beat Aaron Rodgers, all sorts of things like that. So that's a good way to long-term be thinking about what's going to happen.
Yeah, great point, bringing in some futures. I love that. You're thinking,
yeah.
Being far off in the distance. I love
that.
Yeah. Any props for you, Adam? I'll just mention this one. Breece Hall is intriguing to me. I feel like you can make a case Breece Hall receiving yards like every single game because he can just rip off a dump pass and go, 30 yards. But his receiving prop is 29.5, and Rhythm's predicting 38.9. But what I kind of like is that this is kind of a gross buy low on Breece Hall, because last 2 games he had only 11 receiving yards against Houston, only 9 against the Patriots. So if he's, and prior to that, he had 103 against Pittsburgh, 56 against Buffalo. So you're buying very low on Breece Hall in terms of this receiving prop. And I always like it when kind of it scares you a little bit. Like, I think if you're almost overconfident or like too cocky about a play, like it's so obvious it's going to play, that's when you kind of lose a bet, and almost you got to flip it the other way. So Breece Hall over 29.5, I would lean there a little bit. Again, the fact that he's gone way under last 2 games and he has extra rest, running backs who get 2 or 3 more days here to get their bodies rehabbed a little bit. Maybe he's got some fresh legs. Maybe he can rip off a few. I'd lean Breece Hall over 29.5. But anything for you on this one, Adam?
Nothing for me, but I'm going to be adding that one. I was just doing a little bit of research while you were taking a look at it. First of all, I mentioned this last week. Rhythm is that friend who is constantly, there's a couple plays that Rhythm is always telling you that it really loves. And Rhythm's that friend in the bar who's like, yo, bet George Kittle touchdown. Like, always telling you to do that. Rhythm will always tell you to take Breece Hall receiving overs. Rhythm is that friend wearing a Jets jersey in a bar being like, look, I don't know who needs to hear this, but Breece Hall over receiving yards. So the reason why I do like it, six straight running backs have hit their number against their receiving yards over here. Again, like you mentioned, it's a real buy low. I think this is way over adjustment for him on the receiving end. They love using him as a receiver. They love using Braylon Allen in between the tackles. This is just a great call out. And again, actually, I'm sorry, it's 7 straight have done it. Like DeAndre Swift, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, Dobbins, Vidal even hit his number. Josh Jacobs, who's one of the least efficient runners, receiving backs in the league, he also he never gets any. All of these guys have hit it. There's a really good hit rate against Arizona in this sense. Really like the receiving. Honestly, with something this low, probably not bad to kind of ladder it a little bit. Maybe sprinkle a little bit on 45 or 50, seeing what the odds are there.
I'm with you. Yeah, Brees Hall hopefully will show up for us today. Let's keep going here, Adam. Patriots Bears. Now, don't tell me what your thought is, but
I know, but I want to hear yours.
When we were in the group chat, I felt like we were. This was like the one game where kind of we were on opposite sides. So this should Adam, make sure you're recording this one. This one is going to be fun to talk about.
Yeah, this will be good receipts.
Yeah, so this one here, I like the Patriots. Now, I will flip it to you, and maybe you can tell me why Bears are the play. But the way I read this game is, first off, public's leaning a little bit toward the Bears, 60% of bets. Bears have been weird. I want to say they're 4-0 at home, but 0-4 on the road. Obviously, you have the Caleb Williams against Drake May. You can kind of size both of these guys up against each other, the number 1 pick versus the 3 pick. But from a betting perspective, first thing I notice is public is leaning Chicago, 60% of bets, but the line has fallen toward New England. A lot of books open Chicago as a 7-point home favorite. They're down to 6.5. Some shops are even down to 6. That's boom, one of my indicators here of public Bears, but line going to the Patriots. Patriots, if you look at another system match here, big dogs, Adam. When you look at dogs that are getting 6 points or more, they're 26-13 this year. ATS, 67%. That's kind of been like, it's been a big favorite year, but the one good spot for dogs has been when you're getting 6 or more, especially on the road. Also, you look at rhythm predictions here. I have 2 models. I have a rhythm model that says Patriots should only be getting a half point. Another model that says Patriots should be plus 4.8. Also, I'd mention, it's kind of hard to play it now. The total's really falling, but this is a windy under system match today. Pay attention to the weather. It's not sexy, but it's important. This total opened at 40.5. It's down to 30. It just fell to 37.5. And this was like 38.5. I want to say this morning when I woke up. Windy City, Chicago, obviously, but it's going to be windy. It's going to be about 15 to 17 mile per hour winds. Do you run the ball more? Do you have some missed kicks? I like that under. I don't love it as much now because it's fallen quite a bit here, but it's also an indication that the under keeps getting hit. But I'm going to take Pats plus 6.5. I lean pretty hard to the under. Maybe I know you're not like a great Wong teaser, but you take the Patriots up, and then you take that total up and go down. But what's your thought process here, Adam? Even though you're a New Englander, I feel like you're betting against the Pats today.
Well, so I'm from Philadelphia, so I'm not
true
New Englander, just a down the street New Englander. So it's funny because one of the reasons why I'm a little like, look, I get it. Everything you've mentioned actually is great. All these systems are really great. But here's the thing, and it's something actually I learned from you when I saw years ago on one of your shows. So the Bears who were short faves last week lost by 20 points. A New England team that pushed the Titans team and that had a last second tie and then went to overtime and, did their thing. Now the Bears, after getting blown out by 20, are now laying 6.5 at home. To me, that's saying that books are like, we have no problem taking Patriots money. And so for me, it feels like the aggressive amount of points that they're willing to say, yeah, we think the Bears can do this. I don't think that the Bears have performed as well, and I think that all those points are true. But to me, it's a fishy line that I'm leaning into. I can't deny that the long dogs are doing really well on the road. And honestly, since the Patriots went to Drake May, they're in every single game because the kid just he ran for 76 yards last week. Like, he's awesome.
But don't run as much. You're going to get hurt. You're scaring me, Drake May.
All right, but the thing is that for me, this aggressive amount, the fact that they're laying a touchdown if they're blown up by 20, I'm sure that there's a system that if we went and we dug and we'd find that it's probably very similar to like the hold your nose specials. Yep. But for me, a team that's laying after they've just got blown out by 20 on the road, that's now laying 6 at home, feels a lot like, honestly, feels very similar to that Ravens spot, even though they're not the same teams like last week where, everyone was like, hey, here's a public dog on Broncos, and the Broncos got steamrolled out. So I like the Bears here for that reason.
No, you bring up a really good point. I to be honest, I didn't consider that too much. I should have, but it does seem high.
I learned it from you. I literally
I
learned
know.
it from you.
It's
An old school Josh Appelbaum play.
I got so many systems, I forget.
I know.
It's
Double
just
digit dogs, everything.
It's like they evaporate into the wind. But good mention by you. I would also say, this is probably a really good teaser play. Like if it's fishy, again, maybe you're a little bit concerned that it's a little bit high and Drake May does something crazy, scrambles for 10 seconds and, covers. But taking them 6.5 down to a half point, I know that's kind of a quasi like public teaser. You really want to go through multiple key numbers, but that you could definitely make a case. Bears been much better at home. Patriots obviously have some injuries. I did notice that the Bears have a couple like offensive linemen who are hurt today.
Yeah, they have two tackles out, so which is not ideal. So
so could be a gross game. It's windy, the weather. But I definitely think there's cases to be made on both sides. So there you go. To all the viewers of Sunday Sweats, you're presented by both sides, and now you can make your decision, or you can lay off, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Any props here, Adam? I didn't really have much.
None for me. But like Drake May's just fun. So.
And again, I would be a little bit wary of some of these receivers just because in a windy game, it might be a little bit harder to throw the ball. So
there are also a lot of them. Let's be honest, guys. A lot of these guys are bums. Like these are not. None of these guys are on your fantasy team. If they're not on your fantasy team, don't bet them because it means there's no reason to cheer for them.
I'm with you. Let's keep going. This one's interesting. Steelers and Washington Commanders.
I love this game.
This has been back and forth because what's kind of cool about this one is early in the week, I was like, ooh, I kind of like the Commanders. Commanders opened this game. Some shops, they were like -1, -1.5. Like some shops were even like close to a pick. They got all the way up to -3 earlier this week. And I'm like, ooh, that's a big move on a home team that isn't that popular. Like the Commanders are only getting 52% of bets right now. So I'm like, okay, Commanders look like maybe they're a money line play for me. But then over the last 24 hours or so, Adam, this line's coming back bigly toward the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're +3. Now they're down to +2. Game day movement is something that I really, really respect because that's when the limits are raised and big bets come in. So all this late action is coming back toward Pittsburgh. I always wonder in situations like this, you talk about like Billy Walters and like how he kind of revolutionized the head fake, where he would bet one side at low limits to move the number, only that he could come back the other way and get the team that he really wanted at higher limits at a better number. So like what I'm thinking is, did Sharps or Billy Walters hit Washington early to move the line up to 3 and then therefore come back big on Pittsburgh +3 at higher limits? That's kind of my first thought. Hard to kind of, unless you are friends with Billy Walters or a Sharp, it's kind of hard to kind of like.
Well, we can probably Krakenberg does it too, and we could ask him. Like we both know him.
Yeah, he's great as well. So maybe there's something going on there. I would mention too, Mike Tomlin as a dog. That's something that I do love. There's a lot of great data on him as a dog. He's 59 and 31 against the spread as a dog in his career, 66%, 2-0 ATS as a dog this year. Russell Wilson, I will eat some crow. I thought he was done. He's actually looked pretty good.
So good.
Yeah, he's playing very well. He is a good dog bet as well. In his career as a dog, he's 65% against the spread. I think if you want to play Pittsburgh, I think it's a great teaser play. +2 up to +8. You go through some key numbers. Even if you're at 1.5 up to 7.5, like that would be how I would play Pittsburgh. I'd be wary of playing them like +2 because you kind of need them to win the game. And also you're missing that key number of 3. I was looking at some projections though. I think Rhythm is kind of leaning Pittsburgh. One system is Pittsburgh -1.5. Another one is +0.4. I would tease them up if you're playing Pittsburgh. But Adam, how do you look at this one? Are you surprised that it went up to Washington and is now coming back to Pittsburgh?
As soon as I saw Tomlin as a dog, it was like an auto play for me, to be honest. And I like Jaden Daniels. Look, also another one of the systems. Tomlin as a dog, when he has a worse record than his opponent, 22-2 ATS, which they technically do today.
I like that.
I like this. Also, this is a pretty key look ahead spot for the Commanders. I know that look ahead spots don't really exist as much in the NFL. We got actually 2 of them today, and we're going to talk about one of them on the other game. But the Eagles and the Commanders are going to play each other on Thursday, which is arguably a game for the division. These are the division leaders. So there's a lot of reasons that, and they're playing opponents that it doesn't really, well, the Eagles are playing the Cowboys, but the reality is that with a little bit of a look at spot, a rookie quarterback, I do love the Steelers here for a lot of reasons. Tomlin as a dog has just been an auto play for years. So give it to me here. I love Jaden Daniels, but today it's going to be back in the Steelers. I like him on the money line.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, I would lean there too. Again, and I think that's also important. Like, every week or, kind of the routine of betting NFL, it's like, ooh, I want to bet these, early in the week and get a good number. But also you don't want to bet games too early because things do change throughout the week. So like, let's say you like that move, and I did too, toward Washington early. You bet Washington -3, maybe on like, Wednesday. Now you're like, ooh, I'm holding the -3. This thing's at 1 or 2. I'm kind of in a bad spot here. So I think it's important to kind of like if you're a contrarian better or a dog leaning better, to kind of wait a little bit later in the week. So that way you can kind of look at updated injury reports, but then also, get as much data accumulating as possible. And one thing someone told me a long time ago, Adam, bet favorites early, bet dogs late. So that doesn't really, this one's a little bit different because, you kind of wanted to bet the dog a little bit earlier. But again, the metamorphosis of a line and what it tells you, I think, is really important. Any props you like on this one, Adam? The one that I noticed was Austin Eckler, under 44.5 rushing yards. He's only predicted to have 35.2. And if you look at Pittsburgh, they have one of the best rush defenses in the NFL. They're only giving up 90.5 rushing yards per game. And they got a pretty stout defense. Eckler's getting older. I know Brian Robinson is out for this one, but he's gone under this number in 3 of his last 4 games. Any love for Eckler under, or any other props here, Adam, that catch your eye?
No, like I was surprised. Rhythm actually usually is a big Najee Harris fan. They'll jump in. Rhythm will be like, oh, I love 3 things: George Kittle, Najee Harris, and Brees Hall overs. I like Najee Harris. It hasn't come up at all on Rhythm, but his number is pretty low. It's the exact same number that they gave him 2 weeks ago when he ran for 100. He's run for 103 straight games. This Washington rush defense is giving up the most explosive rush plays in the league. That's rush plays of 10 yards or more. They've given up the most. So we know also how this Steelers team likes to win, and they will pound it out, but they're playing really good play action football right now with Russ Wilson. So give me Steelers money line, give me Najee Harris over rushing. Honestly, just play the 70 yards rushing. It's a better number at plus money, and that's usually where he lands.
Nice. Yeah, good points on both of those. Remember, scan the QR code right above our head so you can get the Rhythm app here, and then you can follow along so that you don't have to just listen to us. You can just, look at this research on your own. Stan, our buddy Stan the man, windy unders, Pats, any others? Really, Stan, that's the biggest one that I noticed. That one is now down to 37.5 in Chicago, 15-mile-per-hour winds. That's one that I really like. I worry a little bit you're getting the worst of it. If you want to tease it up and play the under, that could be worth a look. I did notice we were talking about Washington. Stan, that's a little bit of a windy under at FedEx Field. That's like 9 miles per hour. I try to get to 10 or more, but that one did go up a little bit. That was like 44 to like 45. With windy unders, I kind of like it when they fall, because if they go up, maybe the wind isn't going to have as big a difference as we think. Or, wise guys are saying, hey, I know it's windy, but still they're going to go over anyway. So the Patriots one is kind of the only windy under. But again, I'll keep looking and see if any of that changes. I'll throw this at you, Adam. I want your take on parlays. Like, this is like my get off my lawn moment. Because Tim Daniels says, what's the best parlay to bet this Sunday? Well, Tim, I love you. But I don't bet parlays.
The best parlay is no parlay.
I'm not. This is like, I'm gonna be like the loser and the person at the party.
No.
The one that kills the vibe. But parlays, if you want to, here's my very quick 30-second take on parlays. If you want to play them, that's great. I hope you win. But remember, if you look at kind of the way sportsbooks report their earnings, the hold percentage, it's a very important number. It's the basically the amount of money the book holds on to after they settle all their bets. For a regular, just one-off game in the NFL, a flat bet, one play, it's around 5%. So you bet $1, book's going to hold on to about $5 of that, or 5 cents. $100, it's $5. A parlay, they hold on to like 30%. So parlays, the eternal, quest for a winning parlay, you're basically, pulling down the lever in that penny slot. I hope you win. but just know with parlays, the books make a killing off parlays. The regular bettors get crushed on parlays. Why do you think all these books, tweet out all these parlays? And look at what this guy, he turned a $5 bet into 1,000. Like, if you want to play him, great. I would just say for the long-term health of your bankroll, try to limit your parlays. What do you think, Adam? Am I being too stubborn? Or if you were to bet a parlay, anything you like today?
So, okay. So look, broadly speaking, parlay is it's just not like you look, it's how books make money. So it's not really like it's stacked against you. That being said, I do parlays when there's a boost involved. Because what you are naturally doing is you are giving yourself a better EV line than what is available overall. So you're actually, I also do correlated parlays. So if you are going to, for example, let's use this, let's use the Bears game actually it's a great example. I would maybe take something like Drake May rushing over and then do the under in the game, because when you have correlated, first of all, we all agreed that we liked the under anyway. You're betting an over and an under. It's really cool because it sends a nice little text signal that actually gives you this reverse correlation bump. But that's the kind of thing that I do with any sort of parlay. I look at what the game script has to be for something. If I think that a game's going to go over, I add in an alt, because essentially what I'm doing is I'm trying to say, like, if this guy's going to go over his number and it's going to go way over, then they probably won by 7 or did anything like that. But for me, for parlays, I use them with boosts. I don't do them when they're not with boosts. And in terms of my overall percentage of my bankroll that I'm using for them, it's really just something fun that I'm probably doing on an island game versus anything overall. It's just, it's not really how what ends up happening is you end up winning all your straight bets and you're like, man, I killed my bankroll because I bet 5 parlays. That happens every single time. So, and if you want the fun guy answer, then not whatever, parlay the top 5 recommendations you have on Rhythm and go nuts. And I hope you win. that's the fun guy answer.
No, and thank you. We need a fun guy on this this live stream here. I would mention too, there is a case to be made for like money line parlays on favorites in the NFL. Like if you do like 2 teams and you want to bring them down a little bit, you could get a better price. So let's say, again, probably one of these teams will lose straight up. But this is just like my first glance at the board. Like maybe you really like Philadelphia. They're on the road at Dallas. This one's for James Santor. On the money line right now with Philly, they're like a 7-point favorite. They are minus 360 on the money line. Like, like they're probably going to win. It's Cooper Rush. Dallas has looked terrible all year. That's kind of a big number. I don't really want to lay that. So can I find a dance partner for Philly to money line parlay 2 teams and bring that price down? So if you're looking for Philly, maybe we could add
the Niners.
Yeah, Niners would look pretty decent. Christian McCaffrey's coming back.
They're off a bye.
Just looking at the big numbers. Minnesota, is Mac Jones going to beat Minnesota today?
Oh man.
As a Pats fan, I'm going to hate watch Mac Jones with a vengeance today.
That could be Doug. Look, as an Eagles fan, that's possibly Doug Peterson may be coaching his last game without Trevor Lawrence as his quarterback. So good luck.
But wouldn't it be fitting if Mac Jones lit it up today?
He has lit up the Vikings though in the past. He threw for 300 yards against them the last time. He's just like getting ahead, but my favorite play in that game is Vikings first sack, because Mac Jones just has 2 left feet. So
that makes a lot of sense. I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, throw your chats in here. Any questions? Jason, what up, Jason, my guy? Question for you, Adam. Off the Couch podcast is asking, what site does Adam use to see how players have done versus a position? Great question.
I just go to Pro Football Reference. I'm in box scores and game logs all day. But basically Pro Football Reference, which is a free site, you can go in, you can kind of look at the game logs and it will tell you they'll have a column for longest, they'll have a column for whatever it is. You can basically see, you also start to realize as you bet these a lot, and you'll see them if you go, what's cool about it, if you go back in Rhythm, you can kind of see what certain people's lines are, but you bet them a lot, you start to realize what people's lines are generally. So, and a lot of them are based around key numbers. It's like 27.5, and then it's like 32.5, because this is how yards work. But I'm just in Pro Football Reference. Again, free site, completely free site. They do take your support if you donate, but you can go through the game logs and you can just see all of the information. You can kind of see how many times someone has done this, as well as Football Guys has a game logs against, which is another free site. and you can look and you can list it by game logs against, and it'll show you running backs, and you can see just broadly, oh wow, like every running back hits for 20 yards against these folks. So
no, great tip there. And again, Rhythm has applied a lot of these stats into the app as well.
Rhythm has the hit rates too, which is great. And like you can basically take the information you have outside and the information you have in there, and it gives it a little bit of context.
Exactly. I think it's important. I look at one like Team Rankings. That's the site that
Team Rankings is great.
If I quickly want to, like, for the example, I was looking at Pittsburgh. We were talking about Austin Eckler. I'm like, ooh, how's Pittsburgh do, stopping the rush? Team Rankings. I just Google, opponent rushing yards per game. Boom. I see right there Pittsburgh is 4th best. So, again, a lot is the thing is, like, it's 2024. All the data's out there. You just kind of got to figure out, what sites are gonna quickly and easily and accurately give you the numbers. Let's keep on cruising here. Adam, Broncos Chiefs.
Oh, yeah.
Are the Chiefs going to cover a big number, or are they going to continue to fail to cover big numbers here? I like the Denver Broncos. This is a system that you mentioned a second ago, but right off the bat, let's start with the line movement. This line is going toward Denver. It opened with Kansas City listed as high as a 9-point favorite. Some shops are
way too high.
Yeah, way too high. And again, I think it's important too. Like, I like looking at line movement where it's kind of all in one direction and there's no buyback. Like if you look at some of those dogs from yesterday, like in college football, Utah, Ole Miss, Kansas, like the line was always moving in their favor and there was never any buyback. Buyback to me is important because it tells you that, hey, when a line has moved so much, now wise guys are saying, hey, it's a good time to buy low and go the other way. When they tell you that there's no buyback, they're telling you that, hey, we still like it, basically, even though that line is getting worse. So to the point of Denver, it's been consistent Denver all week. Public's still going Kansas City. They will not quit the Chiefs. Now, it's not as lopsided as other games Chiefs are getting right now. Only 55% of bets. Very, very slight majority. But throw away that percentage. The line's going to Denver. Plus 8.5, 9. It's now down to 7.5. Adam, I see some books getting down to 7 right now. Pay attention to the juice. All these books across the board are like plus 7.5 Denver, minus 115. So the juice isn't just what you have to pay. It's going to tell you which direction the line is trending. Looks like this may get down to 7. So if you want to play Denver, grab the 7.5 right now. That's where I'm going. Denver in the points. That dog off a blowout loss you mentioned earlier, but I didn't have the favorite number off a blowout loss, Adam. I can look that up for you. But if you look at a dog off a blowout loss of 20 or more, remember Denver got rolled, as you mentioned, against the Ravens. Those teams come back the next week and they're 55% against the spread. So that would match with you. Also, divisional dog, built-in familiarity, leveling the playing field, those big dogs getting 6 or more. Then here's a stat for you, Adam. Mahomes, Jeff Matthews mentioned he's banged up. Exactly. Mahomes, even if he's healthy, he is 22-29 against the spread, 43% as a favorite of 6.5 or more. So he typically wins these games, but he doesn't always cover. In fact, he typically doesn't cover. I'm taking the points with Denver 7.5 here. What do you think about this one, Adam?
I'm with you. Also, this game has a really weird time start. This game is starting at 1, which is interesting for the Chiefs. It's an early one, so which is really interesting for this team because usually the Chiefs actually play at 4. Broncos certainly usually play at 4, so it's an earlier start. So looking at some Q1 unders is not a bad look. But for me, it's also a look ahead spot for the Chiefs. The Chiefs have a very, very big matchup against the Bills next week. And that is going to be one that is probably for the 1 seed. So there's a lot of reasons along with the systems. I completely agree with everything else that you're saying. I'm not as down on the Broncos as the world seems to be. I think the Broncos look really competitive. They look a lot better than last year. I think they look honestly like a wild card playoff team. They beat the Chiefs last year too with an arguably worse roster. Chiefs are going to be without Juju, who I don't know if you decide if that matters. I don't know if I really want to buy DeAndre Hopkins off of a career game, which I believe Rhythm agrees with me on fading him a little bit this week. So give me the points with the Broncos. I like the spot for the Broncos a lot more than I like it for the Chiefs.
No, I'm totally with you. And great point by, you mentioning the timing. Because I was thinking like that too. I'm like, Kansas City, 1:00 game at home.
1:00 game is very weird. I'm used to that right before dinner.
No, I'm totally with you. Any props for you, Adam? And I wanted to mention Rhythm has Denver plus 4.3, and I have another model plus 6.3. So again, Rhythm is kind of layering in the fact that there's value on Denver, even though this line is moving. Still to take the points, you're getting a 7.5. 7.5. Rhythm says it should be 4 or 6. Good angle there. I wanted to mention in terms of a prop, Cortland Sutton. He's been really good this year.
He's great. He's been dynamite.
Yeah, last couple games, I mean, he's going over 100 against Carolina, against Baltimore. Even in that bad loss against Baltimore, he's starting to have this connection here with Bo Nix. And his projection today is 56.9 receiving yards from Rhythm. His betting market number is 44.5. So that's about a 10, 11 yard discrepancy there. I lean Cortland Sutton over. What do you think, though? Any props excite you on this one, Adam?
I like that Sutton over. I like Sutton to score a TD. I think it's way off because also keep in mind that the Chiefs are it's a pass funnel. Like you're not going to be able to run on this Chiefs team. You're not going to be able to run on Spags, so they're going to have to pass the ball. Also, if you're a 7-point dog, and this is something for folks to be thinking about, game script when you are a dog of 6 points or more, even a dog of 5.5 or more, you have to pass to get those points. So think about player props that you want to get into where a quarterback's going to be like, well, how do I get it? How am I going to do this? I'm going to have to pass the ball. You saw it this morning with the Panthers, who were 6-point dogs, and immediately they started passing the ball, because that's generally how you're going to compete from a game script. I mentioned it before. I like DeAndre Hopkins under his receiving yards. I'm not buying him off of, I think he had 70 or something last week. It was insane. Surtain's back. This is a very, very good Denver defense. They have been a good as bad as this team has been through multiple coaches, that defense consistently shows up. Again, divisional game. There aren't a lot of guys that they need to worry about. I think they may end up like seeding they'll seed whatever to Kelsey to shut down DeAndre Hopkins because he's probably pretty easy for them to shut down. Looking at it, he had 80, looking on Rhythm. His average receiving yards is 39. Rhythm projects him for 41. His line's at 50. I like the under there, and I'm with you on Sutton overs.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good game script call. And again, when I'm on a dog, like I kind of like those receivers because you kind of mentioned it, but I'm hoping Denver covers this number, but let's say they're down 14 points midway through the third quarter. You're probably going to abandon the run. You're probably going to throw it more to try to get back in the game. So that's always a consideration. Wanted to answer some questions here in the chat. My guy, Jason, where do you get these systems, my guy? I need those Mahomes 22 and 29 ATS. So I use a database called Bet Labs. I used to work for a company called Sports Insights, and part of Sports Insights was the live odds page, but then also the Bet Labs database. So basically, it's this database. It's a paid membership. I still think it's the best around. But basically what it does is it has all this information, and then you can filter out like dozens of different things. So you can go to coach quarterback, pick your QB, pick, dog favorite, home road. There's a million different ones, but that's how I can quickly find these system matches. So Bet Lab Sports, they're a good follow on Twitter as well. And then also Jason asked about bankroll management. I'm curious what you think about this one, Adam. But what percentage of your bankroll do you guys do with player props versus game lines? I feel props are hard to gauge. I agree with you. Or sorry, it's Josen. Sorry, this is Josen Forbada, my guy. Oh, okay, nice. I remember that. Sorry, I can't read the thing. I thought it said Jason. Josen, what's up, man? I am a stubborn flat better. So every play that I make is always risking 1 unit, and it's 3% of my bankroll. So if you have $100, I'm risking $3 a game. I know that's not like interesting. It's not exciting, but sports betting is hard. You don't want to risk too much and get cleaned out, and now you have no money to bet. To me, it's always a very long-term conservative approach. 1 to 3% or 5% of your bankroll. Don't go above that. In terms of props, like I bet way more sides and totals than I do props. I love props. Rhythm does a great job with props, but I just feel like personally, maybe you disagree, Adam, I feel like I have a better win percentage on game bets than I do props, because part of my model with game bets is we get all this great data, like DraftKings, all the different sports books. I can look at the percentages. It's a huge market with a lot of money moving the way the line is moving. So there's a lot of money on the line, and you have a lot of data to go off of. With props, you don't have as much data. It's harder to find percentage of, bets on the over or under. The line could move. My angle is I'm probably 75% spread money line total, 25% player props. But what do you think? Do you agree that, or do you have more success with props? How do you break down your props and your conventional bets?
So most of my portfolio is props, but it's also just it's funny because like with Rhythm, I've been getting a lot more into my sides and totals, and I did a lot of sides and totals. For me, first of all, baseline question: treat bet the edge and the angle, not necessarily one type of play versus the other. So for me, if I'm feeling very confident that I have a huge edge, like we just mentioned, our projection edge versus something that we liked with Hopkins, I bet that the same that I will the Denver spread. Treat each game like a portfolio. If you only want to have two, for me, I never want to have more than 2.5 units of exposure on any sort of game. I want to going back to another thing that Josh said about bankroll management. That's why on everything that I do, even when it's touchdowns, even if it's plus 500, everything is to win a unit. And so that sometimes means that you might not have a sexy amount even being bet. Might mean that you're only betting $7 to win whatever because something is plus 700. But guess what? It also that helps create consistency within the stake that you have as risk. You got to think about everything in terms of risk exposure. A problem that I had 6 years ago when I first started betting, everything for me was risk one unit. I ran out of bankroll very, very, very quickly. So my 2.0 was like, I'm going to make sure that everything is to win X, and especially that's why I'm so big on, if you like something for the over, find the alt, because you don't actually have to risk 110 to make one. You could be risking, it might be 2-1, and you can risk 50 to get the one, something like that.
No, great point. I think you explained that very well. Top Flight Michael, Bet Lab's still in use. You're damn right it's still in use.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the best. You can do it by coaches too in there.
Yeah, if you're OG, like the Tomlin system, boom, that's a Bet Lab system. My Windy Unders, Bet Labs, like I love Bet Labs. And shout out to Travis Reed, who really ran Bet Labs and taught me all I know about Bet Labs. I want to mention too, we kind of went through all the games that I was hoping to hit on. Maybe we can hit on a couple more here real quick, Adam. Kyle Johnson, what's up, Kyle? Thoughts on some contrarian plays today? Colts, Saints, Cowboys. So I will just highlight the Colts a little bit. Like I played them last week and they let me down. And Flacco, I thought he kind of was good again, and then
this is buy low on Flacco.
And 4.5 is a good number right now in Indy because they opened getting like 3.5, 4. It's coming back down. Like I have a line predictor here. Like it may get down to 4 again. If you want to cover yourself with Indy, 4.5 up to 10.5. If they can put up a fight, that goes through the 7 and the 10. They're extremely contrarian. No one wants to play Indy. They're only getting 16% of bets. That will be a game that I would lean on a little bit. I do have a system match here on the Colts. Let me just dial it up for you, Adam. I want to say Rhythm is predicting. Let me see. I got to find it. But the one thing I wanted to mention is with Flacco, like just real quick, he could have covered that number. Adam, there are so many angles late in that game where he could have just dumped it off and gotten a first down. Instead, he forces it into like triple coverage, gets picked off, can't make a play. But again, this would be, to Kyle Johnson's point, a really gross, valuable contrarian play, 4.5, or tease them up. They're super contrarian. Maybe the line's coming back down a little bit. It's a buy low, sell high. I would look at a little bit toward Buffalo Indy. I just want to, for some reason, I can't find this one on my app. What are your thoughts as I look for the more info on this one?
I mean, this is the other half of another. So there are 4 teams that have major look ahead spots, and we've talked about 2 of them. This is number 3, the Bills, who are the other side of that Chiefs one. Yep. I have been telling people, you want to have a fun parlay? Here's a fun parlay: Colts money line, Denver money line, because you have 2 teams that are playing each other, that have a much higher stakes game against each other in a week. That is a natural look ahead spot, or parlay their spreads. I think that's a lot of fun. Or you want to get really fun, parlay their team total unders, so we can get real freaky on this one. But yeah, I love the Colts here. I do think that this Colts team is there's props that I liked in this game. Look, Pittman's going to be out, but Pittman's been hurt all year, so it doesn't really matter. I like how they're going to get, they probably will get Jonathan Taylor a lot more involved. Buffalo struggles against teams that are either like at their level or better. They're able to bully ball teams that are much lower, these like 2-7, these kind of teams, but they're not able to put everyone away. And there's so many injuries on the Buffalo side, and just turns of things of what they're going to put together. I sense that there's going to be a lot of Josh Allen hero ball. So there's some props that I've looked at in this game, but I love the Colts here. I think this is a great Colts spot. Yeah.
And I finally found the Rhythm edge here. Colts plus 3.9. That's what Rhythm is predicting. So you're getting a 4.5. It's an incredibly lopsided game. This is one of those classic games where, like, the odds makers are like, oh, we need, and it's always funny on Twitter, like, when you hear a PR guy
everybody to lose.
Say, we need this. Like when I saw yesterday that I don't know if it was John Ewing or somebody, but they tweeted out like the books really need Ole Miss today. Like they're going to take a huge hit if Ole Miss doesn't cover. You end up loving that. Kind of that's kind of a good thing. But yeah, Colts would be worth a look. I'll throw another one at you that, Adam, I don't really mind betting disgusting plays, but this one is even disgusting for me. How about the Tennessee Titans? The Titans against the Chargers. Titans look pretty bad. Will Levis is back at quarterback. The Chargers obviously are having a good year with Harbaugh. He's turning it around like we probably thought he would. But I have two system matches that are lighting up on Tennessee today. Now, the line did move toward the Chargers. They opened like minus 6.5. They got all the way up to, they're like 7.5 or 8 right now. They even might have gotten to 8.5 and come back down a little bit. But I have two models here. If you got the stones to do it, Titans plus 6.2. That's one of my rhythm models. They're only getting across the board. Titans are getting 29% of bets. No one wants to play them. This is a very low total.
29% of bets to back Will Levis is pretty considerable considering how bad he is.
Yeah.
That's actually not all right.
Yeah, like that's kind of intriguing to me. And then also you have a very low total in this one. It's 39.5. Correlative betting would be kind of a bigger touchdown dog with a very low total. Chargers win a lot of games, but they play a lot of lower scoring games. Can they win by 9 or more? Can the Titans keep it relatively close? Personally, transparently, I have not bet Tennessee, but gun to the head, I would go Tennessee or nothing here. Sounds like you were a little bit intrigued by Tennessee.
Yeah, now I'm intrigued by. I think Will Levis is terrible. I think he's a below replacement level quarterback. But here's the thing: I think I don't know if Will Levis finishes this game. And if can't believe we're saying this, but if Mason Rudolph plays this game, we would probably be not blinking at taking the Titans. There's a really good chance that Mason Rudolph comes into this game. What you're starting to see actually in the league with a lot of these rookie, to get a little inside baseball here, when Shane Steichen said, "Look, I'm going with Joe Flacco instead of a guy that we literally traded to draft 3," it started a cascading effect in the entire league with the other coaches who are basically like, well, we're going to have to stick with, do we need to save our jobs or do we have leashes with possibly bad quarterbacks that we drafted? Andy Dalton has been healthy for the last 2 weeks, but the Panthers are sticking with Bryce Young. So you're seeing a lot of that right now. I don't know if that's necessarily the case within the Titans because, again, this wasn't a guy that Callahan drafted. So just keep that in mind. He doesn't have to do this. So that being said, the Chargers play with extremely slow pace. That is a Harbaugh. That is a thing that Harbaugh has done forever. And like you said, and I was looking at pulling up a DM that I sent you in 2021 where I said, hey, what did you say was correlated again between unders? And you said, long dogs, low total, go for dog. And it just makes sense because look, this is literally like a third of the points that are being given to the Titans. So just the math there works really well. I do Titans or pass is basically what I'm saying here on this one. So
no, I'm right there with you. And kudos to you having DMs all the way since 2021. I mean,
dude, I got
way back. I
was in your DMs. Dude, I wanted to learn from you. So
one thing I wanted to mention about you, Adam, that I really respect is we work in first off, working in sports gambling is amazing. I love it. There's ups and downs. When you're doing well, there's nothing better. When you're losing and the trolls and people say you stink and I hate you and blast you on Twitter, that's not fun. But one thing I like about you is our industry is very volatile. You can get laid off or let go at a moment's notice. It's happened to me. I got laid off 5 years ago. It's happened to you. It happens to everybody. You're really good about when people get laid off or let go, picking them up, asking if you can help in any way to get them a reference or a new job. So I just want to give you a shout out because
thanks, man. No, I appreciate really that. That's cool. That was a very real moment. So I appreciate it. And look, for people that have been following, there's a lot of that. It's a very volatile. It's like, especially happening now and stuff. Look, if I can ever, my DMs are always open. If you are trying to break it into this biz, if you are laid off or whatever, I always say to people, look, I got 2 kids, so my time is always weird, but I'm never going to flake on you and I'll totally make time to talk to you and strategize because I've been there. So
love that. Yeah. So shout out to you. You got some good betting karma on your side.
Thanks. I'm doing very well on NFL this year, so maybe that's why.
Nice. Well, you deserve it, man. One more question from our guy Footy asking about the Falcons game. I just want to hit on this real quick. Line is moving on Falcons, pass key number thoughts. if this is public and sharps backing Falcons this week, by the way, got Falcons Super Bowl and NFC tickets after loss to Steelers. Lots of talent. So yeah, Footy, I'm with you. I got the over 9.5 win total on the Falcons. I'm rooting for them as well. This one's interesting because Rhythm is saying there still might be value on Falcons minus 3.5. One Rhythm system has Falcons minus 4.8. Another one has it 4.9. I can't play Atlanta because the way I kind of look at the market is Atlanta's getting 83% of bets. Now, I don't think that's only public because they opened at, I think they opened at like 3 and have gone up. The look at though is I want to say Atlanta like minus 1 or 1.5. So everyone's playing Atlanta. I don't think it's only public because early money did tick that number up, but we got to 4 and it's come back from 4 down to 3.5 at a couple books. So that tells me that, if anything, I would lean New Orleans in the points here. You're a divisional dog with, again, that familiarity, leveling the playing field. You're also a kind of buy low play, only getting, 17% of bets, something like that. So personally, did I play New Orleans? No, I didn't. To me, I got in trouble years ago, Adam, by having just two, I get so excited for NFL Sunday, the younger version of me, I'm 37 now. I've been around the block a little bit. When I was 20, 21, 22, 25, I'd have 15 bets today. I would just be like, I can't wait to sweat every game. I think you learn over time, limit your plays, only pick a few. I hope if you have 10 bets, you go 10-0. You could very easily go 2-8 and have a terrible day and lose a lot of money. So that's just kind of a way of me saying there's a lot of leans I have today. There's a lot of bets that I would make if I had to. I try to limit my plays to the ones that I feel like have the most value. So to me, it's Saints or nothing. Personally, I didn't play it, but what do you think about this one, Adam? Is this Atlanta's going to roll here or Saints maybe undervalued in the Superdome? Can they cover this number and lose by 3?
You left out the biggest part. Dead cat bounce. They got a new coach bounce. That's what they're going to get. So, look, it's a Saints spot. So everybody knows, I'm with you. I'm not playing this. It's and one other point I would make about, playing 10 plays or playing whatever, play within your bankroll, because that is a key to it. As I have done this for years, my bankroll has gotten bigger. If you follow any of my accounts, you're like, oh wow, Adam has this place. Yes, because I wait till Sunday and I literally wait all year for football because these are my things. But do not the biggest thing is there's really it comes down. It used to be bigger, and it's usually finding about stuff you love. This is a Saints spot, if anything. Again, I don't if they were them as a home dog of more past a key number, it's sort of, you would want to play it. New coach. I think they stink is the problem. So I'm not touching it. But also, Footy, to your point, you have Falcons liability already for future. You don't need to play this because you actually are already tied into the overage stuff here. And this is something for everyone also to think about. You're now at a part of the season where if you have a future bet on a team, you don't need to necessarily bet them and double down on whatever's going on. I have Patrick Mahomes to lead the league in interceptions at 35-1. I am not betting Patrick Mahomes week to week to bet interceptions. Yeah. He is currently the league leader because of that. So you don't need to bet. If you have the Falcons over win total, you don't need to take them right now. And if your Falcons make the Super Bowl, these are your bets that you've gotten better value on what would happen if they win this game. So Saints spot or nothing with Dennis Green, not the Dennis Allen, not the wow, it shows my age. Dennis Allen,
really thought they were.
They already thought we were. Dennis Allen, not the coach anymore.
All right,
but I think this team stinks. And by the way, guys, sharps have loved the Saints for years, and I went into Bet Labs when I worked at Action, and I thought it was hilarious. I made a system called the Sharp play system because there was this period of time when everyone loved the Colts and everyone loved the Broncos and everyone the Saints. And I put out a tweet. It was a John Ewing-esque tweet that said, if you backed these teams every single week, you would be 3-50 ATS because they were not covering. They were not doing anything. This team stinks. But if you have to bet anything, this is absolutely a Saints spot.
Yeah, great point by you and Al D. Green for mentioning, fire head coach next game. Typically you play well.
The market is so low on this team. So.
And I'll mention, too, another team to add to your list. Do you remember when Cleveland Browns went 0-15 or 1-15?
Oh, yeah. The following year. Dude, the Lions were the
every week. The Sharps loved them. And again, I love being on the side of the Sharps.
My Circa group kicked me out because they were like, you keep putting the Saints on it, and it's like every week it's our loss. And I'm like, I just said, look, guys, they're gonna happen. Look, I tried to find all sorts of stats. I couldn't. They stink. I remember Andy Dalton throwing 2 pick sixes in the first half of a game. And I was like, I'm done with this team.
Yeah.
So,
there's only so many times you can bang your head against the wall.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, that's pretty much it for me, Adam. If you want to wrap things up, I got to do a little bit of, betting before all these 1 o'clock game starts. But any final thoughts, any closing thoughts you want to share with the audience?
My closing thoughts are this. So like, look, prop wise, like this one I didn't mention. I'm fading Adonai Mitchell on the Colts game. I know that Pittman's out. They elevated Laquan Treadwell. I think Jonathan Taylor's going to get a lot of usage. So I do want to fade Mitchell. He's I think he stinks. And also Bills are actually pretty good in yards per reception, and it's been very clear that Alec Pierce, who Rhythm likes, and Josh Downs, who Rhythm also likes, are really Flacco guys. Future logic, if you want Patrick Mahomes MVP, you need to bet it now, because what's going to happen is he's going to play Josh Allen next week. And if he beats Josh Allen, that line instantly is going to be cut in half. Start thinking right now about matchups with teams and what's going to happen to that team if they win. I mentioned earlier, if you like the Cardinals today, you got to bet Jonathan Gannon to be coach of the year. They're going to be, if they win today, they'll be 5-4. And they're going to be at a really good spot. So look at that. But overall, guys, it's like, bankroll manage, have fun. We're only at the midweek of the season, and we're about to hit the holidays. You don't want to lose all your money before you're able to do important things. So, yeah, let's have some fun.
Yeah, great closing thoughts there, Adam. What is my guy? I want to say this right. Herkajukafer at Y. Cardinals, Jets. I'll just mention I like the Jets there.
I'm with you on the Jets. With you on the Jets. If you like the Cardinals, like I said, if you like the Cardinals, bet Gannon coach of the year.
Yep, great point. Jets saw the line move there, and Rhythm has them winning by 3. I like that dog to fave, pick 'em to fave system there. And then just one final thought: more Tomlin as a dog money coming in. They're now down to 1.5, Adam. Ooh. So I love teasing Steelers up 1.5 to 7.5. That would be my thought. Hey guys,
I love that too.
Yeah, hope that comes through. Hey guys, enjoying the show. Thoughts on Commanders game? Yeah, so boom. Late money coming back toward Steelers there. But Adam, we did it, man.
We did it. We did our first one together.
Yeah, hopefully first of many, and hopefully you made James Santor proud as he's pounding garage beers and tailgating or is he in Dallas? I don't even know where he's at.
I don't even know.
He needed a break. He's a very famous person, Adam. Like, he's got a lot going on. The fact that he needed a break. He needed a day off.
Yeah. Go Birds though. For real. Go Birds though. Again, they were the 4th team that has a look ahead. There are 4 teams that look ahead. Commanders, Eagles, Chiefs, and Bills. All 4 of those teams, I like the dogs on the other side.
Nice. I'm with you. Hope everyone has a great Sunday of sweats here. Reminder, if you haven't done it yet, boom, that QR code. It's so easy. Make sure you scan it. Can you also do us a favor? Recommend Rhythm to a friend. Oh, yeah. Like, a lot of people still don't know how great Rhythm is. We want to, bring it out to the masses. Tell a friend, have your uncle, your dad, someone download it. If you want to help us to grow, we want to get in the top 50 here. There's been a huge increase in the Rhythm ratings, so please give it a 5-star review. And remember, Sunday Sweats is pretty much all NFL. The Rhythm is so great because you have all the different sports included. College hoops right now is where I'm looking at with Rhythm. NBA props are also great with Rhythm. So make sure you download the app, recommend it to a friend, and hope you guys have a fantastic Sunday. We'll be back at it next week. Adam, hope you have a great day, man. Let's catch you.
You too, man. Yep. And guys, always come and find us if you need us. We'll always answer questions.
Sounds good. Good luck, everybody. Have a great NFL Sunday.